Hi, Tim.
How's it going?
Good, good. And you?
Doing well. No complaints on my end.
Where are you at?
I'm in Chicago.
So it's in the middle of the day, right?
Yeah, it's like 1 p.m. right now for us. So
Oh, cool.
um,
Cool. It's late in the evening over here. Or late. It's 8 p.m.
oh, okay.
So yeah.
Been watching much of the Olympics at all?
Actually not very much. Just a bit of I actually saw the Danish badminton player won the gold and yeah, some so yesterday the bike riding,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
but haven't been able to see much because it's for us it's in the morning
Yeah,
or in
same.
the
Like
middle of the night.
yeah, for us it's like I think they're 14 hours ahead of us. So like around like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. is like when most events are going on.
Yeah. Yeah, you aren't gonna get up there, right?
Yeah. I mean, I only got up for the wrestling portion, but besides that, I
Oh
just it's not even worth it really.
no, you're coming from a wrestling background.
Yeah. Yeah, I did
Cool,
that throughout high school.
awesome, awesome. Competing a lot also.
Um, I mean, I mainly just once I graduated high school, I didn't like pursue it in college, other than like in a club aspect, which is like pretty low competition levels.
Yeah,
Um, and then just like working with like some local like club teams, like for younger ages.
yeah. Oh, cool. So you've been working as a trainer most.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Have you been working most as a trainer?
So recently I just graduated from university, and so right now I'm in the process of like getting a few certifications like that they just that most employers require. And so once I
Oh
get
yeah,
that, I'm gonna look to like work with like college athletics.
awesome,
So
awesome.
that's the plan for now. But yeah, I haven't had like any like personal like personal training like experience other than just like a few internships.
Cool, cool. How old are you?
23.
23. So just in the beginning also.
Yeah, just starting out, trying to figure
Awesome,
everything.
nice, nice. Hey Max, just gonna wait and see if how many gonna gonna catch up here and just to get going in a couple of minutes.
Sounds good.
What's going on, Torben?
Oh, good. I'm good. You?
Good, man. So you're just presenting about like your career and I don't want to get started on the presentation, but
No, it's
I
just
saw it and I was interested.
yeah. I thought I just talked a little bit with Keegan about it because it's my life, so I don't think it's really that exciting. But but I think there's some things that I know now that I wish that I've known when I was boxing, which could provide a very good benefit for combat athletes. And mine, of course, being boxing and sort of MMA could also be a part of my thing. But I think especially the boxing wise because it's had so many years in the game. So I want to talk a little about how I got there and what usual training looks like and how it's so easy actually to provide as a strength and conditioning coach the tools to actually help people have a way better what's that called fundamental strength and body to be able to really reach their potential. I think
So it's like, I mean, that's kind of an interesting thing because it's almost like just incorporating it into the general training that these people will be doing and not like making it its own thing, but trying to mix it in with the training.
I think one of the big problems with strength and conditioning coaches in combat sports are that they try to improve the exact movements the athletes and the fighters are doing, and that's wrong in my opinion. So you're punching a whole lot during a boxing career, and punching is a skill. So you have to provide the strength tools to be able to fulfill that potential you have within the skill and to fulfill the skill without getting injured. And that's what I think is also, I think we could transfer this to most sports actually, that we try to do. If let's say a hockey player, I'm a coach for a national second hockey team in Denmark, and most of the teams are doing rotational work just like they do on the ice, but they do it on the ice. So let's work on the other things that don't make them injured. So just more work is like if we get a factory worker, why they get injured? Because they do the same movement over and over and over again, and not the other way around. So I think that's an issue. Just trying to do the same movements as you do on the field because it's a skill set. So yeah, come some people. I'm in the gym, so some people come around.
So
But yeah,
so you're basically saying like you want the practice to be for the skill set, and then training should be bulletproofing your body basically, and we shouldn't be working so much on the skill set in the practice.
exactly. That's a great phrase to go through, is that strength training for each sport, I think, is not providing more of the safe movement. It's maybe often working on the antagonist, because being structural unbalanced is what getting into injured. So, for example, and let me get me started on this one, is that when I started boxing, we did almost the same every session. It was just like getting in, warming up by skipping like 10, 15 minutes, then hitting the bag, going into sparring, and then hitting the bag again, and then doing some ab and push-ups and all that. We did no pulling at all. So we were just one-sided in the beginning. It's just like, it was great bouncing around and skipping because that's like, your calves are getting trained. But on that side, no tips, because we just, of course, did the landing and setup, but no tips for real reasons. And I think that is a bullet point to go through, is that remember to train the opposite side as well, because you use this part so much in the sport. Is really like a runner, you don't only focus on the quads, focus on the hamstrings as well. And that's what Ben has talked so much about, is that getting strong from the bottom up. And I think we should do that in every aspect. And in boxing, you can take your hands and your hands and shoulders are what's most vulnerable, because getting caught, let's say in a hook, and you get a punch on your shoulder when you're about to punch, that's going to get you injured, and that's in the long range, right? So we want to have strong tendons in the shoulders as well on the rotator cuff. So that's never actually been working on it, except for just like punching more. Hey Max, another Max.
Yeah, that's interesting. How do you work the long range for like throwing punches and stuff? Is just general strength training the long range of the shoulder?
No, we never did that. So that's a thing for me, is that I was in the boxing I started out as a 12-year-old coming from a Taekwondo, been doing Taekwondo for 6 years. So I started very young at the combat sports. And then started get boring, because when I had to get a black belt in Taekwondo, I had to wait 1 year. And as a 12-year-old with too much gas in my butt, it was just like I didn't want to wait. So I had around 10 fights at 28 kilos. It was just, I was small back then. And then I went on to boxing. I did a whole lot of soccer and what else? Sports. Jumping off, what's that called in the swim hall? What's that called in English? When you jump from the 1 meter on 3 meter?
Yeah, diving.
Diving. Oh, yeah. I did that, and I did gymnastics and whatever stuff. but then turned into boxing and got into that by, quite an accident because my brother was doing motocross and did boxing for the winter, and then I went because he went. So I was actually good at it, but lost my first 4 fights, then won a single fight, and then lost again. But then I went on to win 28 in a row and become Danish champion several times. And yeah, so I had just a bit of background for you guys. I have around 185, 90 fights as amateur and 12 pro fights. I've lost about 40 of some amateur fights and won about 130, a couple of draws. And then as a pro, 12 pro fights, 10 won and 1 draw and 1 loss. And what I really want to touch on here is that I think it's very interesting with all this lower body work. I never did much of it. We were primarily upper body focused, and that's of course is a good thing. But what I know now is that when I went to the higher levels and got into a lot of fights, my shoulders, I've got some injections in my shoulders. I think like 4 times in this one and 5 times in the other one, for the rotator cuff being busted by hooking and getting caught in the hook and getting pulled the other way. And when you're not strong enough because you really go full force, that's where you get those injuries. And from doing the same movement, just as I told you, over and over again. And in the strength room, we did incline bench presses, and we did some chin-ups. Of course, did some squats as well, but we did a whole lot of pressing as well. And I was starting to wonder why we trained at one type in Denmark, and another type when I went to Germany, we did like super high reps on the bench presses, like very low weight, but just like punching it like crazy. Just like go 30, 40 reps on the bench press was just a barbell or just like kilos, just like hammering away. And it was awkward to me to see that it was so different approach for reaching the same goals to get you the best conditioned for boxing. So my opinion, going here after my career ended, I ended my career in 2014. I lost my last pro fight, and then my promoter had in my contract that if I lost a fight, they could terminate my contract and then give me a new one if they wanted, and then they would give me a shitty salary. And it's just like it's me getting punched in the face. So if I couldn't prepare properly, I don't want to get punched in my face with the gloves with no padding at all. So I think that's. Then I wrote them back that fuck you, and then I ended my career. Then I started working with people actually. But then I got into all this. Poliquin is one of the first schools I got into and really loved that. And he worked a lot on the structural balance thing. So one of the first thing I recognized that I was really weak in was my external rotation and my trap 3 workout exercises. I was way off. So we wanted to reach about those 10% of the close grip bench press in a Poliquin school on both. And I was like, 4, so way off. But I worked a whole lot on that. And then here in 2019, I found out that I could return from being a pro to an amateur. And I just got my kit that summer. And there was the national championships in November. And I started out in like June when I got my kit that, okay, if I want to fight a little bit more and show if I'm able to do something, it's now, because I don't want, when my kid is growing older, I want to use the time on her. So I went into boxing again, and I've done a lot of rotator cuff work and got my structural balance things on point. And the funny thing was that I'm now 12 kilos heavier. So I'm light heavyweight now, but I was in super welterweight as a pro. So that's 12 kilos above. And I've never been a hard puncher. That's also always been my issue. and I was more of a technical boxer, a bit of counterpunching. But the funny thing was that now stepping back into the ring, I stopped. I had 10 fights now, uh, and won the national championships and won the regional championships as well, by stopping half of my opponents before time. And I lost a single fight. It was a national. I was actually boxing one fight on a national team, because one fighter was ill and I had to step in. So I lost against Ireland. He was he was hardcore, but I haven't trained much. I trained like once a week. So the funny thing and what I learned from this was getting my grip strength up and make my hands so much harder, and my wrist weren't bending by punching, and my shoulders by the external rotation and the trap three being stronger. I was able to hook with the same speed as being a super welterweight, but now being heavier. You're gonna get you're gonna what does it say? Your opponent gonna get caught when they aren't ready, because the speed is so much faster. Those guys punch heavy, I can tell you, but they aren't fast. So I'm able to see it all the time, which doesn't make a punch hard. The punch that knocks you out isn't the hardest and heaviest, but it's the one you don't see. So that's the thing that I really thought about hereafter, is that my success coming back was all from my strength training, because didn't have the condition to go with these guys. I was just smarter and then way stronger, even though I was lighter than everybody else. And I think we could use this experience of mine for like how to provide in combat sports. I don't know, like you, Tim, in grappling, I think we have some of the same things. I don't know how people train, so that could be fun to hear. But I think in the weight room, I think in the weight room, the coaches always tend to do the movements. Like if you want to punch harder, they do a lot of incline bench and they do a lot of mat ball work instead of focusing on the antagonist work and the tendons. Hi, Boyan. Welcome.
What's up, Boyan?
Hey. Hey guys.
Tim, could you tell me about how things are going on in grappling? What are your experience from that?
Yeah, so I mean, kind of like what you're talking about, where I mean, at least like what our coaches did with us when I was in high school, it was a lot of just like just stereotypical like strength training, like focus on the bench, like bench squat, like curls, like so it honestly it wasn't very like in depth of a program, but honestly like at that level most high schools don't have like a dedicated like strength and conditioning program for their wrestlers. So it's just kind of mainly up to the discretion of the coaches and what they know. But I mean, yeah, it's a lot of just like short range movements that is like
Exactly.
involved in the strength program. And I think that's where like wrestlers, the two injuries that they always get are either like a shoulder injury or a knee injury. And it's just because of like the compromising positions that you're put into. But I mean, like, even though like I don't wrestle competitively anymore, like even after like adopting some of like the ATG principles, like I feel like I don't know, I just feel more secure when I am in those positions. Like I don't feel like my shoulder's gonna pop out because I've dislocated like my AC joint a few times on my left shoulder just from wrestling. And then also I used to have like thinning of the cartilage in my knee. And so certain positions I would just be very hesitant in. But like after like just incorporating even like just like the like tibialis raises, like the ATG split squat, like that has like, because I used to not even be able to like sit on my knees, like the pressure would be so much. And so in wrestling, like obviously you get into positions like that. And I don't know, like I said, like I just feel so much more comfortable. And I just feel like if programs like adopted even just some of the principles of like long range, short range, I think it would benefit a lot of teams, especially teams that have like high injury rates. Like my university that I went to was the University of Iowa. And it seems like, I mean, we always have top guys in the country, but it seems like each one either has like a shoulder or a knee injury, which I think limits the athletes so much when they have to not only deal with competition but nagging injuries like that.
Yeah, and the thing is that in a competitive environment, like every sport has actually, uh, when you just have a little thing, you aren't gonna pay attention to it. So you're just
Mhm.
gonna hope it's gonna go away because it came by itself. So you hope it's gonna go away as itself. But
Yeah.
that's not the thing. And I think what most neglects in boxing exactly, and must be also in grappling is the fingers, because
Yeah.
the hands are your tools. So by having fingers getting tweaked or whatever, it's just like having a strong grip is like you know your foundation there, and that's
Yeah.
the TBL is for a basketball player. I think it's like the foot getting that strong, because whenever you punch, if your hand is gonna when you punch, your wrist is gonna bend like this. I
Mhm.
don't matter how hard you can punch from your shoulders, because this ain't gonna be hard only on itself. So either this way or this way, it's gonna be very usual. So having a strong wrist to actually benefit from this is the only time I met this in my career was when we had an old uh, gold coach from Russia coming by our club and staying for 1 month. We trained so much on the forearms. He got in the bucket of rice. We had to grab in the bucket of rice.
Yeah.
But the thing is that what most people also don't remember in a boxing glove is that you have the wraps on. So you have wraps on, which is gonna make your grip thicker. So within a boxing glove, it's not like being like knuckle like this.
Mhm.
So it's gonna be like this, and your thumb on the outside. So this is gonna be, whoop, this is gonna be what your hand is like within a boxing glove. So training the pinch grip, I think, have a lot of benefit, and also curling the outer joint of the fingers. This one,
Mhm.
you have to prove that. So it's not only the wrist, but just like we do on ATG, work joint from joint to get that worked. I think that is very nice, and that, I can't remember his name, who put up that wrist thing on Medium. Oh, what's the guy? That was awesome.
Talking about hand ability.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He goes by like Garage Guys. I forget his name. That's his.
Oh, he was just like awesome.
Yeah, I've actually been trying out his protocol. It's Kenny Walters.
Kenny, yeah, exactly,
He's
exactly.
like
And
a physio student, I think.
but that just really struck me, and it struck me in a way that is for the extension, and that's very nice because you get the fingers that way, and that's very good for people writing on keyboards and whatever. But in boxing, we want to be in strength in that way as well. So we want both sides, of course, because we don't want structural unbalance. We want to get each side strong, so we don't get either the tennis or the golf elbow. Um, so I think that's a thing when you go into sports, is that remember to know your whys. So don't ever put an exercise in your program just because. Always know your why. And that's what, if you if you got that question into most boxing coaches, I started doing that as a boxer because I was wondering why we do shit one place and not, and that's you know been said the other place that, oh, they ever don't do that, and another place that's what they actually do. Um, so I started asking people why we're doing that. If I couldn't get a good answer, I was just not doing it. I got a better answer another part. Um, and you've seen, maybe you guys have seen Floyd Mayweather and other big guys, big names, shadowboxing with dumbbells in their hands, and that's the most stupid thing. After I learned about physiology and what that actually does, because having a weight in your hand is gonna pull downwards, and the
Mhm.
boxing glove is when you're fighting, it's weighing about 200 grams. So all above 200, maybe 500 grams is just like way off, because what you're going to do is whenever you punch, your hands start breaking before early, very early, so your shoulders is not going to get injured. So think like when you're bench pressing and taking the barbell and just fire all that you got, your elbows is going to like pop or whatever if your body doesn't break it. So you're now mimicking that your body should break your punches before they're fully extended. That's why a med ball is better, because punching and then throwing it is just gonna take off some weight for your hands. So that's good having dumbbells. It's just walking around with your guard is great because that's the load down. So thinking of all these principles just gonna click something in my mind, just saying, why are people doing that? They're not good because of it. They're good despite of it. So that's a good thing. Sometimes to remember is that understanding why they actually do it.
How else did you train? Like you're talking about like the importance of flexion. So like rice buckets, obviously, but did you do like the wrist curls and other wrist ability stuff?
The thing is, we never did it. When I was boxing, it was only a little bit with the Russian guy that made us do it. So hereafter, I worked a lot with the fat grip on the bar, doing my chin ups with fat grips, and just things like that to get my grip going. But I haven't worked it as much as if I were competing still. I would have worked it way more. But also the pinch grip. I don't know what they call it. I thought the iron brick, or what is it called, where you have to pull in like a brick where there's hanging weight and then it's gonna drop. That's also nice. And of course, the captain of crunches is also good. But yeah,
What
I think
what's the last one? The crunches?
those what is that called? The springs, those old-fashioned springs. You just kind of squeeze. Aren't they called captain of crunch?
Mm-hmm.
I'll
Yeah,
have
I
to
know
look into
exactly
that.
what you're talking about.
You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
have one here in my closet. These ones.
Yeah.
No,
Gotcha.
old-fashioned style. Just going squeezing them in your car. It's just like working good. Yeah. So that's. But I think just like Kenny put up is that the other way around should work as well. So we should both work the extension and the flexion, just like we do with the legs. And that's what I wrote. I don't know if it was on the ATG Telegram thing. Is that for me, it's like really knowing, if we know these principles and having the knowledge, we could apply it to every joint. It's just gonna take us some time because we have to think of the joint and then start moving from top to bottom or bottom to top to get working how to really get the long range work and how to get the short range work and why to do whatever. Make sense? Any of you other guys have some questions or other things?
How about for if you're having kind of, I'm a grappler, so I used to box. I don't have a 800 amateur fights like you, Torben, but I had a couple. And now with grappling, I find sometimes I have a sore elbow in either kind of extended range or complete flexion. I don't know if you have some ideas that you would have used during boxing to kind of strengthen the forearms and to alleviate some of the elbow pain.
I've never really had so much elbow pain during my career. It's more of a shoulder thing on supraspinatus and on the rotator cuff in total. So I got some injections, like I explained, I think maybe before you got in, Bertrand. So I worked a lot on the structural balance work from Poliquin at that time. Both the external rotation to trap 3 work was a game changer for me actually. But on the elbows, right now I have a little because I'm walking around with my kit on my arm. So I have a little bit of a tennis elbow on the top of the brachialis. So working the thing from Walters, he put up in the medium on the hand things have actually made quite a thing for me. So I don't have pain anymore. But doing or carrying around a day with make the pain come back.
I'll have to take a look at that article. I haven't seen it.
I think that's
It's a mining
I think
app.
that's yeah. I'll just I think I can post it here for you. That was just like awesome. Wasn't it called hand ability or something?
Yeah, I think it's called hand ability.
There it is. I'll just post it in the group. It's for everybody to see.
Nice.
He's like, that's really awesome work in my opinion. There we go, guys.
Nice, thanks, man.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I had one of my clients who's had a little bit of the same, but it's a bit deeper pain, and we're doing that 3 times a week, which tend to now leave her better and better day by day, but it's not coming fully off. Yeah. So any other thing? Actually, a little bit from my idea in this event was just like in that Telegram group, we were talking a little about this boxing and getting some ideas and things, and I would love to provide anything, but just like I told Max in the beginning, actually I think sometimes it's hard for me to get what could be a useful tool for you guys. So please let me know if you have any questions.
What else did you do for your shoulder besides external rotation, trap 3? Like, I mean, I guess just thinking about the shoulder, like those, I guess would be considered more like not short range movements, right? So
yeah, they're like,
I mean, they're like mid range almost.
They must like be mid range, yeah. The trap 3 must be some kind of a short range still, but it's because it's hardest on the short range. But external rotation is more of a like, I think that must be a long range, because fully internally rotating and having the weight with the gravity is hardest on when the external rotators on stretch position. So that must simulate a sort of a long range. But also, I think the chin up is a very valuable tool to get up for whenever boxing, because that is your antagonist of punching. Yeah. The pull up as well. I've never really been huge in the pull ups, but chin ups is my thing more. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like pull-ups and chin-ups are also just great for what you were talking about earlier with the grip strength and just strengthening that whole area of the wrist and the forearm.
Yeah, exactly. So that should also have been a lot bigger on, because I think what we have to remember is this about, if you're gonna punch on a heavy bag, let's say we're gonna punch for 10 rounds at 3 minutes, and we have done the sparring as well. We have done a whole lot of extension, right? So we haven't done a lot of pulling. We have to do a huge amount of pulling to reverse that into being strong on both sides. So that's like firing up the gas without firing up the brakes. And I think that's what also Ben is talking about when you're so quad dominant, that your hamstring and tips aren't going to follow you. I think we would think of it in a bit in the same way.
So would be, just thinking out loud, the most applicable kind of back strengthening, something more of a row to mimic the same plane that your punches are going out on.
Yeah, I think when we could talk about, a rowing where you're a bit in a like 45 degree, with a rope or something, so really get a stretch on your lats, and pulling from that angle could be really good, because the punching, Poliquin always talked about the punching exercise where the 45-degree incline bench, because you're punching in somewhat like 45 degrees upwards. You aren't punching straight horizontally, and you aren't punching vertically. So I think a pull where you really get a stretch on the lats, so some sort of long range for lats would be awesome. And in a way we have, I think we have, if we do that in a chin up and then do the chest or like the front lever chin up, Keegan also been doing a bit where he's like running into a ball because he's curling the legs up. Doing that front lever pull up and chin up is also going to put a great stretch in the lats.
What about, one thing I noticed from myself from grappling, for example, for over time, your body naturally builds up some imbalances just from the stance that you take, right? So
Yes.
you always have left foot forward. I'm always, shooting a double leg off a certain leg. So, my back leg is really strong to explode off of, much more so than the left. Do you try to address this in your program, or is it a kind of, how do I say, like bang for your buck?
I think we should remember that is, with the other leg being as strong as it has to be for doing the mission it has to do, I think we're good. So if we talk a health perspective, we want the both sides to be like equal, and we want this balance between right and left. But if we go into a sport, like look at the javelin throwers or whatever, you will never get a strong non-dominant arm as the strongest arm. So I think working on that would be a waste of time, but we should still work it, because you can't just neglect it, because that would just make you injured, especially in grappling or boxing where you're actually using that arm as well. Most boxers are actually strongest in their non-dominant hand, because that's the lead hand. So you're gonna get a whole lot of reps with that hand. So I'm kind of like both-handed, because my left is not my dominant, but doing all those things with my left is it's helped me doing, like I do a lot of daily stuff with my left, which actually should have been done with my right, but yeah.
Yeah,
Does
I
that-
had the same, right? Because
Yeah.
you're never gonna, and there's probably no point just to make it perfectly balanced, really. As long as it's not too extreme where you might get injured, right?
Exactly, especially when we're in a sport where we have to use both sides, because actually the javelin throw is, the other hand is just for like balance and drawing when he throws. So I think for him it's just like, I don't care if that arm is just like spaghetti and the other one is a big one, but for us we have to use them both. We can't neglect them totally. But yeah, we will see some, because always also healthy people or like whatever have grip strength imbalances. Or else it's just because they're weak on both, so they're equal weak. Maybe.
So do you find now that you're back to boxing, but you've been kind of looking at the exercise science side of things, you have a lot better control of your body?
Yeah, I quit boxing again after I won both Danish and regional championships, and then I said to the guys, "Hey, now you get 5 years more to get better, and then I can come back and win again." So I'm gonna leave it for 5 more years to get better, but to get actually some competition. No, but
Come get the southpaw just to surprise them.
yeah, exactly. And now I'm gonna go up in heavyweight, just to just to show the case. No, it was fun to get back, but also I just did actually win it. It's just like I can't say my legacy, but in Denmark I've been quite huge, because I've been done one of the most spectacular reach one of the best places for the last like 20-30 years. as I went 5th in the worlds in 2009 by losing in the quarterfinals to the later champ. So I still have some things that I've actually done, and I don't want to not be that guy who's not able to leave the scene when you have to, just
Yeah.
because you can't. You want the fame and you want the highlight and you want to be in the stage light, but whenever I see a boxing fight, I think, okay, now I can step up, but you also have to know your time. So yeah.
That's a common one. So do you train boxers now with some of these principles, or?
Actually a little. I'm now working as a nutritionist for the best female boxer in Denmark. She's actually right now gone up pound for pound in female boxing at 8 in the world. I help her on the nutritional side and start working with her on the strength side as well, because she have all these issues with a pec injury and external rotation injury and elbow pain and yeah, wrist pain, all this shit. So she's a hard puncher, so that's also very hard for her joints. And I'm very excited about trying to work with her, because if I can get her into like pain-free, she's gonna demolish most of them. She's like a beast. She got what most girls don't got. She got balls. Actually, I think she got, because she's hard hitting as hell, and don't mind taking a fight. So yeah.
It's really true though, what you talk about. Like, I notice it myself too when I go to training. If I have jiu-jitsu, you always have some kind of pain, your back, something. But on the days that I show up pain-free, I'm so much more, I can express my movement so much better. I can change direction. I can switch up. I'm really free. When you have that pain, it's always something slowing you down. You can't fight to your full potential.
Exactly. And if you want to compete, like just in national best, you can't have yourself 5% off. That would be stupid. It's just like, tying one of your hands in the bag and think, okay, I could win anyway, but you have to be really good then. So I think like, this thing, by being pain-free, and by being pain-free, you're actually able to fire with everything you got, because you aren't afraid of what that's gonna lead to.
Mm-hmm.
And especially I think in grappling we have all these isometric, really hard on the tendons, statical work. I think that's very important, because that could be statical work actually in the outer range. Because if someone is about to, let's say, tangle your arm or whatever, you have to work from, that's an outer range, and that's in long range work where you actually you have to be strong, or else you're gonna get injured, I think.
Yeah, that's where most people injure their shoulders in wrestling. It's when they're in that extended out position, and then there's just so much force that they're trying to pull in the leg or something, that their shoulder just can't handle that.
And I think really from watching it, because I was actually gonna go into MMA right after my boxing career ended, but that's when when I tore my ACL. And I didn't actually knew I tore my ACL, because I was wrestling with the guys. One of the guys actually fighting at the UFC right now. He just twisted my leg, and it was just right, it went like big, but I just kept on working. And then some years later, I tore my MCL. No, medial meniscus. Sorry, medial meniscus. I tore that, and then they found out what it was when I was put into surgery, that my ACL was missing. So I don't have an ACL today, because they didn't want to fix it when we haven't agreed on it. So I don't have one today, and my meniscus is loose, so it sometimes pops out of my knee if I'm in full flexion. So I didn't want to go into MMA, because without an ACL, and when actually with my age and what I've done, I didn't want to go in there and just like bust my knee. But today I wouldn't mind it actually, if it was today, because I think my legs are strong to meet that. But just like you said, Tim, this is just like being in the Nordic and then being able to pull against a guy who pulls you. So that's how you're supposed to work, I think, on the isometrics, not to get what's like submitted. Is correct.
Yeah.
So I think maybe even more for wrestlers, this is important than for boxers, even though it's important for boxers. But I think like Tim says that that's actually where guys, I think, maybe pull their biceps or pull their pecs or whatever in that lock.
So I had when I just started boxing, I think like most guys, I was punching way too hard every single time, and I ended up hurting my right shoulder quite a bit because I could generate a lot of power through my hips, but I wasn't using the right technique yet. And that was years ago. My right shoulder has never been the same since. So, in terms of throwing out that kind of right shoulder too far, is it usually the external rotation and the rotator cuff work that is the best to kind of address that?
I would say would be that you have to get up to at least those 10% body weight or 10%. Paulquin made it a percentages of your biochromial bench press. And I think that will lead to about the same as 10% body weight, because the biochromial bench press is just like if you're able to bench press your body weight, you're good. You don't have to. You don't need really more. Of course, that's nice, but I think working on that and working equally on the dips, the full range dips, is gonna make a huge impact on that not happening. But the thing is that if I can show it, I don't know, when you're punching a hook, which is mostly where you get from the backhand, it's because you're gonna pull yourself so much forward that in this position, that's the long range from my pec, and my shoulder is really extended backwards, so like sideways. So getting here and getting punched, because you can generate so much power from your hip into this, but you're not punching where you're actually in the short range of the motion, because you're not yet flexing your muscles, you're still quite extended. So that's the problem, because you put all the body weight in it, plus you're gonna generate power. So that's gonna be a huge impact on the shoulder.
Yeah, it makes so much sense now that I've learned about long and short ranges. I look at that position, I was like, fuck, that was bound to happen from the start.
Yeah, and that's a very good position to be in as a boxer, and that's why I think this is so necessary, because like combat sports, this is often where you think you're hitting the hardest, but also being able to generate force with your front hand, your lead hand, is going to be like really extending and then flexing. So you have to get that. It must seem like a plyometric, just like on the fit, because you extend, flex. So it's just like long range, short range. It's going to pull on your tendons.
I find Gennady Golovkin has a really nice technique with that.
Yeah.
With that.
Gennady Golovkin is like when you're boxing, the last guy I fought, an Armenian guy, he looks and he boxes, his technique is like shit. But some guys, I don't know why, they have like hands of bricks. It was just like, and this guy could pull out like 30 pull-ups strict. And his grip was just like ruthless. So I think that's also, a thing afterwards coming to me, that's if you got those things, it's just like when you get hit by a hand of a brick, even though he was tired and I, beat him technical wise, sometimes at training, because I trained with this guy before, fight him in a fight, I could beat him technical wise, but whenever he hit me, it was just like, I've been drinking a whole lot of beers and boy,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be driving in that condition. But so you had to take so much care, even though he was tired, it was just like his hand was just like breaks anyway. And that's why I say that he couldn't bench much. So Golovkin, I think, is a bit like that. He isn't like seem so fast and light in speed, but just like hard hitting and like getting hit by a truck every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And working into that, because in boxing we just think of have been speaking of that phenomenon, like just he got bricks in his hand, and we didn't actually put further thoughts into that and why is that and put him into test. I think if he should squeeze one of those hand machines, he could like pull that number way high.
Right.
Uh,
Do you think grip strength is the biggest correlation to punching power, if there had to be one?
um, grip and wrist strength must be in one here, because again, if your fingers are good but your wrists are like doing this, I think it's shit, because this is the force. The Russian guy always talked about when you're punching, you like have to curl a bit your wrist, because then this part is like where you get really injured. But this one is if you get your knuckle just to go in line with the forearm, in line with your shoulders, that's gonna be hit like a lance, instead of, you know, like this with something is gonna bend. So a straight arm with straight from the shoulder out to the knuckle is going to be the hardest. And I think that's quite correct. But you have in a boxing glove, if you ever been in, like I said, it's just like this. So you have to do like this to hit with the knuckle.
Right.
Most boxers hit like, if you see it in slow motion, hit a bit like this. So you hit with actually these knuckles.
Yeah, a lot of boxers actually break their hands, right, during fights.
I had to get a surgery from only having like 5 fights, because in pro gloves you don't have any padding. So punching a guy just right in the forehead is just like punching right into a wall. That's like stone hard. It's stupid. But I did that, and he went right for me, and I punched him right in the face. So the next couple of fights, I had to get injection in my hands to get the fight done. But then at last I couldn't. When I was boxing a 10 round fight, it started to wear off in the 8th, but it was just like, then you've been punching a guy in the face without feelings, and then phew. Thank you, Max.
Is that what you're trying to? Are you trying to put together a combat sport program? Is that one of your
No,
ideas or no?
I haven't really been into that actually, but I think I haven't gone that far in it, because I just think it's interesting and struck me very much getting into all this and getting deeper into the knowledge, because I've thought of it, just like I said, from acting, going into the Poliquin thing from 2014, 15 when I got into that. So I've been working on those things, and I've been working these split squats. It's not as far knees over toes as Ben does, but Poliquin has been doing those for like ages. So I was doing that when I was rehabbing my knee myself and doing a lot of hamstring work. So I was actually able to, after that meniscus tear and no ACL, I was actually able to squat 90 kilos, and that was 90% of my max at that time for 3 times 7 weeks after my surgery. So that went quite well as well, and I have never had any complaints other than my meniscus falling out sometimes. And I'm able to put it in again by fully flexing and rotating my lower leg, but it's still like I can't straighten my leg then. But yeah.
To on your question, Max, there's a Telegram group where we have been talking about doing like a ATG for grapplers kind of thing. So they had a call last weekend. I had to miss it, but there's gonna be another one, I think, this Sunday, and that's the idea, is building on these concepts and kind of applying the ATG principles from the knees to shoulders, wrists, forearms, whatever else, and hip and knee stuff, but that would be more specific to grappling. So I mean, I don't know how close. I imagine some of it would be pretty similar to what you would do for a boxing or MMA program, but maybe the programming might be slightly different.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, and what I'm really suck at is putting things into putting things into text. So I would love to provide some ideas and whatever, but I would never ever get that done. Just I'm working on it, but now it'd be like I think for 2023 or whatever if I'm starting on it. But I would love to work on the ideas and contribute what my knowledge.
It
I'm
seems
sure
like
recording of explaining it, there'd be someone who'd write it out into a program.
Yeah.
just let Torben talk for a couple
Yeah.
hours and then somebody write it down.
Somebody pick up the best. No, but I think that I agree with you, Boyan, on there's some similarities from grappling to boxing, but I think grappling and the boxer don't have to work on so much asymmetrical things and work on so much tension at the long ranges. But there is some tension, I think, in the short range when you're putting up your guards. Let's say your guards as a boxer is really in the flexed, and you have to be very, very tight when people are punching to really adjust and not just let your arm getting flicked. Does that make sense?
Good point. Yeah.
I've busted a whole lot of guys in this tactic. It's just like keeping my really into my turtle shell and then letting people punch. And there's a tendency to people always finishing with a left hook. So putting 1-2 left hook. And when you know that, it's just gonna take that one and then punch. So when you're strong as taking and punching, you're just like gonna hit them with a solid hook every time. So there's something like you learn those rhythms in boxing, and if you're tight enough, you can just like let them punch without your body moving, absorb the punch, and then throw. But you have to have a tight guards, because if your hands are like falling like this, you're like busted.
Mhm.
So we have
And
some isometric work as well.
Right, but definitely, yeah, I would see that it's a lot more explosive movement than, I mean, in different areas, but yeah, with
Yeah.
grappling, there's a lot of isometric upper body strength,
Yeah.
especially.
Yeah, and I think that when we're like focusing on the strength thing, it's like going into grappling. I would focus on how can I do a program which makes my grappler able to be in this position, able to tap out or pull it back without getting injured. Because the thing actually doing the grappling and stuff is like that's what the grappling coach is about to do. So the strength coach is about to bulletproof the athlete so he doesn't break.
Dario, man. If that's the Dario I'm thinking of, yeah, he works with some UFC fighters.
Phil Daru.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Unless
Have a good day, Max. Awesome.
Yeah, Phil DeRue, he uses some of the FRC, the functional range conditioning principles too, which yeah, I think it's pretty complementary to the stuff we're doing here.
Yeah, and that's what I think that I made a fast track endorsement interview, and my take on it was that what I think is the best thing ever, and why ATG is way beyond everything else, is because it makes an impact without interfering. No matter what sport you put in front of us, with the ATG principles, you're gonna make a difference without interfering what the athlete is going through. And that's what I think we should keep an eye out on, is that also putting a program together is that we could do all these cool stuff, but still our mission is to bulletproof the athletes. That's the strength trainers main concept, I think, because like you just said, Brian, being bulletproof makes you able to reach your full potential.
Yep, 100%.
and I've been a victim of that sometimes before, because having to talk with guys is, oh, I've got to get my incline bench up or whatever they have to do. Also CrossFit athletes train down here or whatever. It's like we want to get it up because that's where the thing is. That it's not always that, because if you can lift big numbers or whatever, if you get injured all the time, it's just like, but you aren't able to use it. So you have this potential, but using this, so you're only this good.
Yeah, I really
No.
like. I forget which. I've been working through the coach's advantage lessons. I forget which lesson they talk about it in, but it's like strengthening the weakest link in the chain. So it doesn't matter. It's not the same for every person, but
No.
you have to find out where your leak or that client's weakest link is, and then address that so that you can transmit kind of the power and the strength that you have in all the other links of the chain.
And I think that's very much is alike when you think of high level athletes. It's not always the top level difference that makes them high level athletes. It's just like they always, whenever they perform, even a good or a bad day, it's like at this level. So they have this band to move on. Their lowest level is just that high. So some ordinary athlete could perform the same level just once in their whole career, but the other guys is just performing it over and over and over again. So I think that's also a thing. And I think that's what Ben really, hit the nail, is that the tips and the lower leg, the knees, are the weakest link for almost every basketball player. So maybe there's like 2% of the basketball players who doesn't have that problem, and nice, then you work on something else to really raise that bottom level. I think that should be our biggest goal.
So I have a question for you. It's kind of in line with that. Keegan talks about like having the big two. So, and obviously these can be changed. Like you want to do the whole program with everyone, but if you only had the big two to use for knee bulletproofing, I think he had like the ATG split squat and the tib raise as the most common, right? That you would see. So what would be your big two for a boxing athlete?
I think it would be, right off my hip shooting would be the external rotation and grip work. So grip work is of course a bit multiple because both work in the extension and flexion, but my number one priority would be the external rotators, because that's where all the injuries happen, and sometimes I think they're happening there, in the hands or whatever, other places, because of weak shoulders, and because the shoulders are so internally rotated that your external rotators are on a stretch all the time.
Okay.
So they're quite inhibited, I think, in most.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But yeah, grip strength again. If you think of the arm as the legs, doesn't matter your hip are strong if your feet are like glass. No. So working those hands would be great as well.
You work like pinch grips just by like picking up plates and like walking with them, or are there other ways of doing that?
Whenever I'm doing that, I usually get 2 5-kilo plates, which are like not that big, but still bigger. But I get 2, so you have to squeeze to not let one slide instead of just grabbing one. I grab 2 plates, so you have to squeeze them. Yeah, and I think I actually worked a little after thinking and seeing the Kenny thing. I'm trying to do pull-ups only with my fingers on. So instead of having a full grip, I do it only with my fingers. That's also a thing I think is there is something there, but I'm not fully into it yet.
The Kenny one, the weirdest one for me was this one. That like I can't even do it without bringing these middle fingers just like fight. They want to come up almost like Like they can't hold that position. It's just a weird movement, but
Yeah,
it's again like you guys are saying, the weak links. So if
I
you
think
can't
that's
do the movement, then you should be able to work that. So
some coordination stuff and mind muscle thing. I think of working, being able to really control your muscles. Mm. I got that actually in my feet. On one foot, I'm able to, pull up the big toe and let the other one be, but not in the other one. So on my dominant foot, I'm able to do that, but not in the other one. And I just realized that a couple of weeks ago. I'm just like, what the fuck? Come on, you bugger. But so now I'm working on it. And especially if I have to leave the big toe and lift the other ones, that's like, crazy. Like that's not even
you almost
for-
have to like push the big toe down or put a force on it
yeah.
if you're just starting out. Because
But I
it's
don't
really
want to
hard.
cheat by just internal rotating my foot. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think there's some, like you say there, Boyan. I think going with 2 exercises and own them will just like be your bread and butter. Then you can do almost a lot of other cool stuff, but really that should be worked on. So really getting deep into what should actually be the 2 big for like boxing. What should be the 2 big for grappling? What should be the 2 big for legs? I think that is also, of course, individual on each coach and viewpoints and experience. But I think if we share, like all our coaches, they will get a contribution into a lot of minds, which you could pick really 2 good exercises.
Yeah. And I mean, just open the world of like applicability of the system to any sport, because it works. Whatever you need to address it to, it's been focused on the knees.
Yeah.
Most popularly, but yeah, I know we have coaches from all different kinds of backgrounds, different athletic backgrounds. So I'm sure you could get the top 2 for almost anything.
Exactly. But I think what have really clicked with me is that whenever a client steps into my gym and don't have a real goal but just want to be healthy, I always think as the first one, bulletproofing. Limitless, bulletproofing. I don't care if you could do a double bodyweight back squat if you're not able to sit on the ground with your grandkids.
Yeah.
It's just like we have to value bulletproofing. Like your Ben said the other day, the day you don't want to program a split squat anymore, then find another thing to do. It's just like it's so valuable. It's not always has to be in a program, of course, but when you're not really, when you're missing the fundamental stuff for doing the fancy stuff, it's time to move on.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that really, clicked with me after getting into this. Is like, what is our mission really, and what is health and freedom is, and it's not being limited with our bodies. So like I said the other day, I ran a marathon backwards as my first marathon without getting injured at all, and I skipped for like 24 hours, 100,000 skips.
Nice.
I was going through that Instagram story the other. I don't know what you're saying because you're speaking in another language, but it was so funny. All the people walking by and stuff.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
just
man.
like stupid. Yeah, but yeah, I have never been rowing a kayak, but I'm gonna row a kayak 120 kilometers here in a couple of weeks around an island here in Denmark. And I've been water skiing around an island as well. That that was also like crazy. We were 6 guys water skiing around an island, stupid, but awesome.
That sounds awesome, man.
But the thing about me doing that is here in my gym, I'm known as the weird stuff guy sometimes, and I own it. So it's kind of it's kind of funny, but people always look and say, "Oh, he never breaks," and doing weird stuff, but never complain about injuries or whatever. And I think that's more actually getting into people's mind that, wow, that's awesome, than having a 2 bodyweight back squat.
Yeah. I can say a similar thing. This last weekend, I did my first Olympic distance triathlon,
Hmm.
and I didn't even train that much for it, man. I've been doing this like bulletproofing my knees. I do my jujitsu, and I go once a week for a run or a bike and these things. But the point was that a few years ago, you couldn't pay me to make me run on the pavement. Like the pounding on my joints,
Hmm.
I had hip surgeries, knee surgeries from basketball back in the day. You couldn't pay me to do that, And I did the triathlon. I was sore for one day, and then I was training jujitsu the next morning, So
And that's
yeah,
really awesome. That's in my opinion right now. That's very clicked in my mind as and yeah. I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older, I'm saying all this stuff, but yeah. Uh,
yeah, we value different things now. That longevity becomes more and more important for sure.
yeah, but I see this when with my kid, being able to do things with her like without limitations. I can crawl into small spaces, I can crawl around, and I can do things and go back playing with her, and yeah, all that. It's just like super valuable. Uh, and I see that from my clients as well. Being able to go to work without pain, being able to do things with their grandbabies or whatever. It's just like that's real value. Nobody ever asks about how many chin-ups you're able to do either.
Yeah.
That's only when in beach in Venice or something.
Why do you think you'll keep doing challenges, or like is it just like the rush of something that you've never done before that you keep going back to it, or do you want to like almost set a good example for other people in the gym?
It's, for me, it's because I work a lot with the mindset. Um, it's just like whenever you're able to achieve a goal that you set and you're able to do, I don't do things for like be the fastest to do a backwards marathon, for example, because I don't want to put in that work. But I want to show that everyone could set up a thing for me and I'm able to do it. Yeah, and I think that mindset of, I've been struggling in that skipping part. I really said to you, I was struggling because it was like hurting, like jumping on swords, really for like the first we did after the first 3 hours of skipping through the first 3 hours, we started skipping 100 skips each minute for 40 minutes and then rest 20 minutes. So when you got back to skipping, it was just like jumping on needles that hurt as hell. And I thought in the beginning, don't ever stop again because it hurts this much. But then when I was going, half, I said, okay, I have to need a break because this hurts so much. So we went on for 21 hours like that. And that mindset is
Jeez,
just like
21 hours.
I think, yeah, that was that was fucking shit. But like I say to all my clients, the time passes no matter what you do. So I would rather do that and feel shit for 21 hours than feel like shit for like all the time afterwards. Because if I had to do it again, I'm gonna go through the same bullshit just with the mindset that, oh, I've been through the first 3 painful hours that I have to do again. And even though I go through them, I've not achieved anything yet. It's just like the same pain over and over again. Does that make sense?
That's a great way of looking at it.
So yeah, also by eating healthy. Time is passing no matter what you do. So in a month, there's past a month. So rather train and do something you like than do something you don't like, but because the time is gonna get you.
Yeah.
Hey, have you seen like what Keegan's talking about with this, like it's like a life flex, almost like
Yes.
mind flex, so being
Yeah.
able to bend and change and stuff. Is that kind of fit with your philosophy?
Yeah, I'm like totally stealing Bruce Lee, like be like water. It don't matter what you throw at me, I'm gonna adapt. And that's the key. And that's what I want to show about this is just like, even though I don't train, my body is just a tool of my mind. So my body is able, I want to have a body which is bulletproof, limitless, because then it's only my mind stopping me, and that's not gonna stop me, I dare you. So that's what I want to do by this, and by showing this is that I can relate to every other people, because I had an old woman come to me who want to run her first kilometer, but I said that's just like for you 1 kilometer is like the 24 hours skipping for me. So you're gonna
Mhm.
go through the same pain. It's just gonna shorter of time, but it's gonna feel slow as hell. So it's the same pain you're gonna go through, same steps, the neglection, the punching in your face yourself, but also the thrill you're gonna get afterwards because you overcame those thoughts. That's what really makes you happy. Not running the kilometer.
And then it's self-reinforcing too, right? Then it's like building that pattern that, hey, you could do this again, and that challenge can become a bit bigger.
Yeah. So achieving and doing, it's just like pushing it to achieving and doing more. So by saying that, it's just like put anything up and I'll do it. It's just like I haven't tried a stupid thing yet that I can't do. So put anything up and I'll try it, and I'll keep going until I've done it. But the sense of this is not saying that okay, you have to lift 100 kilo snatch, for example, because that's not the same. This is like putting the mind into use. I'm doing things which aren't skillfully hard. It's just the mind between you and doing it. Does that make sense? It doesn't take any skill to run backwards, because you could just walk. They'll just take longer. So the thing about these challenges should be without skill adding to it. That's what really makes it mental. And that's from my boxing career as well, because I was just like, I remember especially one time was I was in Germany training camp in a old German school with no internet or at all, and I was the only one, and I wasn't really speaking German, and I was living in this school only talking with the German coaches all day, and there was like no English, which we speak German here. Just like, what the life, like, but you have to adapt and you have to get the best out of it and see the possibilities instead of all the challenges.
Guys, I have to run. It was awesome talking to you guys, and Torben, thanks for taking the time to chat with us about this.
Of course, it went a bit off track, I think, from boxing, but yeah, it all started with that at least.
It was
Well,
all good.
when you've done all these crazy challenges, it's hard not to talk about them. So, you know.
Yeah, because they make kind of into my thoughts and all this, because that's where really again ATG clicks in, because it make you bulletproof to do whatever. Yeah. Awesome talking with you, Boyan.
Yeah,
Take
man.
it
Nice
easy.
talking to you again.
Have a good
Guys.
day.
Do you
Yeah,
have any other?
I don't really have any other questions. Honestly, I'm not even like I've never even done boxing or MMA stuff. I just wanted to get on here to listen to you talk, because it was really the backwards marathon thing that like I don't even know why. I'm just like obsessed with this health stuff, and I don't know what I want to do with it, but I know that I want to do things like that. Like I want to just go perform these feats that people will like, not for the people, but that people would otherwise just think no way someone could do that, and just to show people it's possible. So it's really cool to listen to you talk about this stuff, but especially with the mindset stuff. And I've been listening to, I've been reading like the Ido Portal stuff. Like he talks a lot about the mind stuff, and he talks a lot about like getting over this like disassociation that we have between like the mind, like I have a body and like my body hurts me, and like almost like becoming the war, like the one thing, instead of separating. I don't know if you ever thought about that or how
Yeah,
your
I've
ideas.
also been studying Ido Portal for years, because I was like with the MMA and boxing when he first got into Conor McGregor. I knew him already because one of my good friends have been on some courses with Ido, and I wanted to go as well, but didn't afford it at that time because I didn't really earn much money. But yeah, I think that is awesome. But one really inspired me, and one thing I don't know if I would try, but have you ever known about Terry Fox?
No.
Do you know Tim? He's a
No.
Canadian. He's the only ever non-royal or a governmental person being printed on money.
Oh wow.
He's from Canada. He was the founder of the Marathon of Hope. I don't know if you know that, but he ran from what's it called? England, something England. What's it called? I can't remember. All east of Canada, and he wanted to run across Canada at the time. It's in 1986 or something, and he was diagnosed with cancer. So he had amputated one of his legs. So at that time, he was running on a what's that called? Artificial leg, but it was stiff, and he was running like 2 jumps on one leg to just stumbling. Like he would run a marathon each day. So I have a marathon in the morning and I have a marathon in the late the afternoon, and he was doing that like crazy. That is really a guy who inspired me to do stuff which isn't at first hard, but still hard because no one would ever do it. Yeah, and being an example without, and at that time there weren't any like internet, so he was just running and collecting money, and he was just like, that was crazy. Try to look at for that on YouTube, the Terry Fox on ESPN. There's a documentary. It almost makes me cry every time because it's just like, wow. Yeah, that's really passion, and for me, steel mindset, and exciting.
I'm gonna have to look into that. That sounds ridiculous.
It is indeed ridiculous. It's like fully blown crazy. It's just like the sock on the artificial leg when the hole on it. It's just like how crazy is that? How much of his leg must have hurt him, but yeah. But yeah, I hope you guys got something out of this talk, and yeah, hope I'm able to contribute to getting this further evolved and developed for everything else, because I think really the principles and the knowledge, when we apply it, we can use it for everything, make an impact without interfering.
No, yeah, it was a great talk. I love the ideas that you presented, and because it's always something for like I've thought about like just mixed martial arts as a general, because there's a lot of overlap but between the different disciplines. But I've always had like when I first found ATG, just had a feeling that like this could help so many issues, and just getting to talk, especially to someone like you who's had that experience at like the highest level. I think it's great just getting to bounce ideas around.
Awesome. And that was actually what my thought was, because I didn't know actually what to write to Kick and what should I do the event about. It's just like I don't have a script or a recipe for success, but I've done something and learned something that I would do better if I did it again. But if I did that, I wouldn't be sitting here. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm very glad to have the chat, and I'm gonna stop this recording now.